Our first topic of the night is that we have surpassed the 60,000 subscriber mark. Thanks so much to all of you who have made this a reality. I will do my best to continue to honour your support by providing the best possible content regarding about what's happening in Australian immigration and videos on visas and policies. Now down to business. The Prime Minister Anthony Albanese and Home Affairs Minister Claire O'Neill were busy this week selling their vision of a more efficient and productive Australia with an emphasis on more a permanent migration system rather than relying on temporary migrants. First, the PM gave a speech at the National Press Club on Wednesday.
Our world-class universities have made Australia a higher education destination of choice. But we can be a leader in skills and technology and manufacturing as well. Put simply, as I said during the campaign, I want us to make more things here again. And I want products made in Australia to be recognised and sought after around the world. Recognised for their quality, their sustainability, their innovative design, and the skill of the workers who produce them. And all of this will be complemented by the work we're doing to clear the visa backlog and simplify our migration system with greater emphasis on permanent residency and citizenship. Once again, greater emphasis on security.
At about the same time, Claire O'Neill was at the AFR Workforce Summit in Sydney, saying Australia's migration system is broken, unstrategic, complex, expensive and slow, creating a backlog of problems that are still lingering today.
And this simple fact is the source of a lot of the problems that all of you are experiencing using our migration system today.
In echoing the PM's vision, she took aim at the problem of relying on temporary resident workforce in Australia, explaining the size of the shift away from permanent migration over the last decade.
The number of temporary migrants in our country has pretty much exploded. So in 2007, you can see from the chart here, we had about 1 million temporary migrants in Australia. So this excludes visitors and people who are transiting through our country. Today, that number is 1.9 million. So we are a pretty small country, population-wise, 26 million people. 1.9 million people in Australia today are temporary migrants, here as temporary migrants. So this has been a pretty staggering shift in direction of our migration program. And I have to say that it happened without a really serious public policy debate or discussion. It didn't happen with a lot of planning and strategy. It happened by negligence and continental drift.
Well, an unplanned explosion it may well have been, but over the years we have become reliant on these temporary migrants. We took them for granted for being here, a vital source of workers that actually contribute to the smooth running of our economy. However, when so many left during the pandemic, the penny finally dropped. Left with skill shortages after this mass exodus, Australia's sacred Sunday morning cafe breakfast became hard to find, and the cafe latte set in the major capital cities realised that we had a serious problem. It's good to hear the PM focusing on the problem with a solution, a shift towards permanent residency. But how are you going to shift them when you don't even know what most of them are doing here, as the DOA minister pointed out?
We are not really doing thinking and planning for who these 1.9 million people are. Just 6% of this cohort are here on skilled visas. So are these 1.9 million people coming to our country and driving us forward with the skills and capabilities that we need for the future? We just actually genuinely don't know.
So we have 1.9 million temporary residents here, and the government doesn't even know how many of them are working or have the skills to drive our economy forward. Sounds sort of incredible. But does it really matter? We know these people are not sitting back and taking welfare, that's for sure. They have no safety net, only hard work and drive to keep themselves afloat. They are a very resilient bunch, just the sort of people we need. They are out there in the community. Yes, many are skilled of course, but also many doing the jobs Australians don't want to do, serving our cafes as we get our breakfast, cleaning the hotels and office spaces, working in agricultural settings and more. Does it really matter if they're not working in skilled jobs? Well, actually, no, it doesn't. They are working hard already, contributing during the pandemic and still contributing to the economy as a whole, despite the fact they get practically no benefits like their permanent residency counterparts do doing the same jobs. The minister makes it sound like they're just freeloaders, 1.9 million people of which we must cast a judgment on. That it's all some kind of disaster because there is no formal policy on their existence. But does there really need to be a formal policy? Well, no, there doesn't. They're all doing their part, so just go ahead and make them all permanent residents. Problem solved. It's not as if they're going to create a rental crisis or something because they're already here. Now moving forward, how are we going to plan for the future then? This is what the minister has in mind.
Making more permanent places available, being really clear about when migration is truly temporary and making sure that we manage that fairly. We need to sharpen our focus on skills, both having clear strategic thinking about who we're trying to get here and where they will come from, as well as creating a much better process for their journey into Australia so we don't scare them away. This is inevitably going to involve actively selling our country to the migrants that we need, not just sitting back and seeing who chooses us.
Well, that's the plan anyway. And how are we going with reducing the visa backlog? Well, according to the minister, we are now down to 500,000, which she added is roughly normal. However, I don't see it as roughly normal when we still have 489, 476, 407, 300 visa applicants and more waiting for more than 3 years now. If the minister thinks that this is the new normal, perhaps she should think again. And this week we bring you the Claire O'Neill 8-point manifesto on what the DOA minister wants to achieve next. 1. Develop a clear definition of why our migration system exists. 2. Redesign the fundamental structure of the migration system and rebalance the temporary and permanent programs. 3. Remove policies that create permanently temporary conditions. This will mean being clear on where migration is truly temporary. 4. Focus on skills, having clear strategic thinking behind who we are trying to get here and where they will come from, as well as streamline processes that don't frighten them away. 5. Improving the speed and ease with which we recognize migrants' existing skills when they arrive. 6. Coordinate and integrate the needs of the labour market, training and education system, and the migration system, giving Jobs and Skills Australia a formal role in our migration system. 7. Design out migration exploitation. And 8. Fix the administration of the system, simplify rules and reduce complexity. This is a bold plan indeed from the minister, and at least it's a plan, which is better than the last government. During this workforce summit, the minister made it clear that it will take some time to fix this broken immigration system. However, things can be done now to improve on what we already have. We could have a combined list for the 482 visa, giving all visa holders the chance of employer PR sponsorship. We could abandon the farcical labour market testing, and also we can get rid of the GTE immediately, or at least simplify it so it cannot be used to discriminate when a case officer has a bad day. The system can be modified to run in a fairer and simpler fashion. Furthermore, it's not just the regulations making it complex, it is the Immigration Department's policymakers and individual case officers who are making refusals based on excessively technical requests. This forces people onto lengthy AAT delays and federal court cases, costing applicants and the community an absolute fortune. The recent issue with the validity of the PY programs is a perfect example of a policy section gone mad, telling people their courses were no longer valid when it defied logic and common sense. Then after mass complaints, they simply change their minds. Well, when the skills shortages really get desperate in your state, send in the big guns to head a recruitment drive overseas. The WA's police minister has flown into England and then will go on to Ireland to encourage teachers and nurses and more to come to live in Western Australia.
We got an enemy sub closing in fast. What do we do?
Oh.
15 seconds to collision. We need a decision.
Fire the torpedoes! We've been hit by an officer. If they're going to fire on us, we'll respond in kind. Fire!
WA's police minister will be spruiking the state's laid-back lifestyle as he leads an 8-day mission to the United Kingdom and Ireland to bring workers to our shores.
Western Australia sells itself. It's not difficult. And frankly, we have some of the best conditions in the world for the sort of people that, the people that we're trying to attract, which is just about every sector.
Representatives from the state government, the Australian Hotel Association and Motor Trade Association will host information sessions at pubs filled with free beer.
I am shamelessly trying to steal their best people.
Pubs filled with free beer, no doubt at the taxpayers' expense. Can someone please send me a movie clip of the minister sculling one of these beers? Naturally, the British media were quick to latch on to that story.
We need to hide our nurses, our teachers and our police because Australians are trying to lure them down under. An Australian minister has admitted that he's come to the UK specifically on a mission to poach thousands of British workers to fill vacancies across the country. They are telling Brits very unfortunate truths like the wages are higher, the cost of living is lower, and the weather's better. So, I mean, it's a no-brainer, isn't it?
And as the presenter said, it's a no-brainer, isn't it? The government keeps saying we need to pursue people to come to Australia, but in reality, there does not seem to be a shortage of applicants. And by the way, where are these 31,000 visa places going to come from? Now, earlier this week, we released the news about the extended version of the 485 graduate visa becoming available from the 1st of July this year. If you missed that news, I'll leave a link to that video at the end of this one. Of course, there were lots of questions out there of who exactly all this will fit. Those who are lucky enough to have finished an approved course and apply for their 485 visa after the 1st of July will get the extensions. If you lodge before the 1st of July for the 485 visa but still waiting for an answer, then my guess that you too may get an extension as well, as long as you have finished one of these approved courses. Those whose 485 visa expired after the 1st of September 2022 and before the 1st of July 2023 and were here during the pandemic will have access to a 2-year 408 pandemic visa. It does not seem that you must have completed one of these approved courses to meet this requirement, but we will see what the details bring later. The question is, what about those whose 485 visas expired before the 1st of September 2022 but helped us out during the pandemic? And now it's time again for one of our readers' comments. This came in from Carla. Hi Carl, I'm glad the 485 visa holder has been finally extended. However, I hope the government don't overlook other visa holders such as the 494, 491 and others who waited 2 years or more to get their visas granted. This means we've been deprived of the opportunity to get our residency earlier than it should because of immigration lack of manpower. We stayed and helped Australia's economy, and in return, Immigration Department prioritised overseas applicants over us. I hope you can knock for us and remind them that we are still waiting. Carla, we agree with you 100%, and don't worry, we won't be stopping our knocking for all of you. Well, it's been an interesting week. Many of the minister's comments are yet to be analysed, and there are a few there that raises many questions. We'll go into that in more detail later. For now, I hope you've all had a great weekend so far, and I look forward to seeing you all, the whole 60,000 of you, next week. As always, take care out there, and I'll see you next time. So bye for now.